Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Hope everybody's doing well on this beautiful Tuesday in both St. John and Rexton, oddly enough. But yeah, in New Brunswick, you never know what the hell you're going to get. But we're back here on a Tuesday to talk about season 3, episodes 5 and 6 of Breaking Bad. But before we get into a couple of really interesting episodes, Shay, you got a new location. I know you moved into your first home, so first off, congratulations, buddy. And how did the move go?
Thank you very much. No, it's good. Yeah, if anyone's watching on YouTube, you'll see a little bit of a different background for me, a little bit brighter now that I'm out of the St. John fog belt and into the Quispamsis sunshine. But no, it was a pretty seamless move. We had lots of hands. Shout out to my family and Kennedy's family. Both of them were huge helps in the process. Also, D Warm, a guest on the show or reoccurring. He was also there helping out. But no, it was good, and I'm excited to get out of an apartment life. I don't think it's going to be pretty difficult to go back if anything ever happens.
Right, yeah, for sure. Getting your own space and you got your own pad. It's yours. It's yours now. So good for you, man. I couldn't be happier for you. And I know you and Kennedy will have a lot of fun and some good memories there, I'm sure. So even
Yes.
though I mean it's in Quispam, not St. John. So I guess I'll have to clarify. Good
Yeah,
times there.
yeah, my co-host might actually come visit me. He's a frequent hater of St. John. Whoever, or if there's any St. John listeners out there, but he said he'll come up. So first time he comes up, it'll be recorded, and I'll have a time.
Yeah, it's not my favorite city.
Really?
But yeah, breaking news. But I'd rather go to St. John than like Sochi, Russia. So there's that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. There's worse places in the world.
There are worse places in the world, for sure. One of these, potentially worse places is Albuquerque, New Mexico, because there's a lot of dangerous people in the world of Breaking Bad who are living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we ended our last couple episodes really seeing Skylar and Walt really deteriorate their relationship. Uh, Walt has moved back in, but not because Skylar wants him, because he's just saying it's my home. She called the cops, if you recall. We've seen that Jesse is moved on. He's free enterprise. He's starting to cook meth by himself. Yet Walt is still getting half the money for it because of Gustavo Fring and him wanting Walter to return to the business. So we have a lot happening. It's really, I think this is some of the more some of the best Breaking Bad, because there's just so much moving parts, a lot of really compelling characters. And to start episode 5, Shay, we actually go to a throwback, which is, I know this is one of the storylines, one of these throwbacks that you really enjoy, how Jesse comes about getting his RV.
Yeah, this is great because for one, kind of gives you a little nostalgia. If you've been watching it so long, you get to see Walter again with hair, and it basically takes place at a reoccurring scene in the first season where Walter's giving Jesse the money for the RV. So basically, Walter hands him the money, says, negotiate. You're a drug dealer, and that's basically it. And we don't actually see the transaction with the RV until this very scene. So it's nice that they give a little throwback, but it also comes into play later into the next two episodes we'll talk about. But what's really, really cool, Jesse takes the money and he basically has a boys' night out. And he's at the Rippers, he's at the strip club with Skinny and Combo. And I'll let you describe some of the activities that go on.
Yeah, so like any young male, who wouldn't go to who wouldn't spend the money this way? Not very conscious at this point. Jesse is not as mature as he is. I think at this point he's still very much a kid. And like you said, he goes to the strip club. He starts spending money on the most expensive champagne. $400 a bottle. He orders 2 of them right away. He gets basically almost all the women in the club to come sit in their, the VIP space, if you will. He's ordering getting dances. He's got women with, with their breasts out on top of all 3 of them. They're taking pictures, doing shots, and it's a night to remember. That's for sure.
Yeah, they have a good time, and sure enough, they step out. Skinny leaves, and yeah, that's that awful time. You have to count how much cash you have left, and Jesse's down to about $1,400, and he says,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm gonna have to leave the country. I'm gonna have to change my name because this guy's blackmailing me." If you can remember, Walter at this time was basically telling Jesse, "Well, if you don't help me in being my partner in making meth, then I'm going to turn you into the DEA because I know you were the one behind the drug operation that they originally busted in season 1." And Combo kind of says, "No, man, I got you. I have an RV you can get for cheap at 6 a.m. in the morning." So they kind of they take a little tour, and sure enough, they head outside. Combo goes into a house, grabs the keys, and comes out and gives them to Jesse and says, we got to make this fast and we got to get away. Jesse clearly still blitz. He hits about every garbage can coming out of the street. But that's the story behind the RV, and you get the sense that Combo really didn't have a connection for the RV, but it was somebody else's.
Absolutely. He comes out and he's smiling. He goes, do I need to sign anything? And Combo goes, no, it's more of a, just your word type operation. And we hear clanging in the house. He goes, we got to go. But like you said, they get the RV, and this a big moment because this is how they cook meth until this point. So he ended up getting the RV for $1,400 in essence, and being able to spend all that money that Walter gave to him in good faith without Walter knowing. So let's go to Skylar, and she is spending a lot of time with Ted, her boss. They're sleeping together. If you recall, she did it at first really to get under Walter's skin, but she seems to be, especially Ted's growing significant feelings for Skylar, and he's actually asking her, this famous couple line. Well, you can leave some stuff at my place if you want.
Yeah, and it's Ted living in this great big house by himself. He's starting to, yeah, you're right. He's starting to get feelings, like you said, and starting to get them in. Uh, Skylar's just kind of obsessed with the home. I think the lifestyle at the same time, heated bathroom floors, and she's at the same time. I think she needs a distraction from what's going on in her real life, and I think that Ted is kind of that escape for her. Just kind of get away from work, get away from the kids, and go essentially just be free for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. She can have some fun, just not live in her world that's completely chaotic, and where her son calls her a bitch every second word. And she mentions that later in the episode. But when she's back home, Walter gets a call right before dinner. He's in Holly's closet on his burner, and he's kind of going through talking to Saul, talking to Jesse, and Jesse basically says, I want that half of the money. It's mine. I want it back. And Walt goes, no, you're not getting that. It's my formula. Like you're not getting this money back. And Jesse goes, my meth, my money, bitch. And
What her whole bitch.
Yeah. And Walt hangs up, and Jesse's really completely frustrated, and Saul's not really any help.
No, he keeps telling. He's telling Jesse, you can't escalate the situation. You can't escalate the situation. But I don't know. I feel like Jesse maybe doesn't even make enough money really for Saul to be worth, like, you know what
Right.
I mean? Like if it's where they were together, they made a lot of big change. But Jesse alone, and he can't make that kind of product the same as the two of them. So I feel like Saul, he's trying to help, but at the same time, he could kind of care less at what happens to Jesse.
Yes, Saul goes where the bigger payday is, and I think he knows that the friend of the friend, which is Gustavo Fring, our Chicken Man, aka drug empire, when it comes to meth, he likes Walter more than he likes Jesse. So he knows that Walter has potential to make much more money long term. Jesse really has no revenue stream at this point, and he does not have an in with Gus, so Gus is not going to help him in any way.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So meanwhile, funny scene where Hank has gotten some intel that these Heisenberg type, selling the meth, they did it in the RV. We saw that Jesse was in the RV at this indigenous gas station. He doesn't know the license plate, but he does know the type of bounder that it is. So he's got 28 on the list, and he's at this campground with Steve Gomez, and he thinks it's the RV. He's not leaving. He's dead set, like this could be it. And he decides to get a closer look at what's inside.
Yeah. So at first he can't see anything on the inside. So he says, you know what? I'll climb up and take a little peek. Obviously there's a ladder in the back. They get up there and he's peeking through, and it's this older couple. They're basically nude and they're just sitting there playing cards, and a sound goes off, and, they clearly see him. And, at that point, you don't look like a DE agent. You look like a peeping Tom. So
right.
They're pissed, obviously, and he kind of flashes to the morning time where he's still apologizing to them. That just shows you how long it is. Everybody's kind of outside of their RVs looking at him. And, he walks up to Gomi and he's like, like that's just a misunderstanding. Let's hit a couple more before we call it a day. And Gomez says, no, I can't. I got to go home and pack.
Yeah. So Hank goes like, well, your wife's got you by the balls again, kind of, and he goes, no, I'm going to El Paso. Mm-hmm. So that was Hank's assignment that he turned down. He was there once, but then just recently turned it down in our last episode. It's like getting your next promotion. That's why Hank's described it. His wife Marie wants to get to DC eventually. This is the pathway to do that. And Gomez has kind of replaced Hank on that totem pole, because kind of people see Hank as a wild, erratic character right now, because he's chasing this ghost that people still think doesn't exist.
Yeah, 100%. You're right. And, if he's not going to take that promotion, obviously you don't wait around when you have an opportunity like that. So the sergeant on their force gave it to probably the next best man. And you could clearly tell that Hank's pissed off. He doesn't, right away, he doesn't say congratulations. He doesn't smile. It's kind of a look of disgust. And, you're giving up on me. You're giving up on this case. And he walks away from Gomez, who, as we said before, they had some terminal in the last episode as well. But, this is clearly, Gomez doesn't feel as strongly about this case as Hank does, and it's starting to show.
Absolutely. And we know Hank has been through a lot. He's seen a lot of death. He's had near-death experiences. He's got a lot going on in his head, and he's talked to nobody about it. And that's a terrible way to try to deal with pain and grief. And when he gets home, he doesn't say hello to Marie, just hops in the shower. And she goes to talk to him about Gomez being promoted to El Paso. And he acts like nothing is wrong. He actually gets angry with her. He says, don't you dare question me, and all these bullshit accusations. And, he's starting to treat people in his life, pretty shitty.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like he's pushing people away because he's not facing some inner demons that he has. And we see that more and more. Actually, he gets into a pretty heated conversation with Marie later on. Mm-hmm. But as of right now, we'll leave it for there. He's just going through some demons, and we see this throughout both this episode and the next episode with Hank. And I think they're both good episodes for him, because they're seeing him at his lowest, and this obsession that he has just kind of keeps growing. He eventually does get a break, and we'll see, how he handles it.
Right. So Walt goes and has a meeting with Gustavo at Los Polos Hermanos. They're sitting down, and Walt says to Gus, yeah, good try on using Jesse as a ploy to get me to get back into the business. He goes, do you think my ego would get me in the way here, that my product would drive me, that it would upset me? And he says, do you think this hurt my pride? No, I only love the chemistry. And this is so complete bullshit coming from Walter, because it's so easy to see what drives him, and it's complete ego.
Yeah, he's saying all this, and as a listener and someone who knows him, you're just basically going, yeah, this you're what you're describing right now is 100% true. It's 100% yourself. Everything he talked about, oh, like, that just because it's my formula, this is my baby, doesn't mean that it means anything to me. And clearly it does, from his reaction when Jesse made it, and the fact that he's still hanging on to the money, because if there was no ego, he'd probably just give that half of the money right back to Jesse instead of hanging on to it.
Right, exactly. And Gus kind of, again, Gus is so smart. He goes, yeah, no, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. If that's how it came across, like, I know you a lot better than that, Walt. I know that wouldn't affect you. And it just shows Gus is really socially aware. He knows the pressure points of different people, how he's going to get different people to react to different things. And he's got Walt on the fish hook right now, because he, again, appealing to his ego, appealing to saying, oh, sorry, I tried to get this fast one by you.
Yeah, exactly. He does a really, really good job. And he knows exactly the mindset that Walter's in, even if he doesn't show it. And we see in a few minutes shortly after this, because he says, you want to go for a drive? I'd like to show you something before, basically before you resign and say no again. Mm-hmm. And they take a drive to a laundromat factory.
Yeah, it's a old laundromat in kind of the middle of nowhere. It's in a desert type area, more rural than to when they originally cooked, but still it's very off the beaten path, not very, not close to public, and it's secluded for sure. And they get there, and we see Hispanic people everywhere, and they're cleaning, doing their job. And Gus goes to a machine and he presses the back of it, and it lifts up. And when it lifts all the way to the front, we see a thing of stairs. They walk down, and it leads to an entire industrial kitchen style meth lab.
Yeah, it's massive. It's it's very hidden. Obviously, it'd be very, very hard for anyone to just walk in there and know. And Walt, Frank, Gustavo basically just says, this is your lab. This is how much I want you to cook. This is to be economically, stable, and to basically earn my money back. This is what you're gonna have to make, 200 pounds a week. Mm-hmm. And, this kind of showboating a little bit, in the sense, like, this is what I've created for you. This is everything. And Walter's impressed. He's going everything. He knows the items, and he's ripping stuff apart like it's a Christmas gift to him. And he certainly got him wowed. But Walter still, for the third time, says no.
Yeah, he's very, very much impressed. But like you said, he says no. But I found this time, Shay, it was a no, but it was leaning towards a yes. He was, I think he loved it, but he had to say no because it's what his family wanted. We see more what happens with his ego and things with Jesse, and he has to take advantage of this opportunity because of the kitchen, because of everything else. And I think he says no in the moment, knowing later he will say yes.
Yeah, and I think that we go back to Gus's pressure points and having him on the hooks. Walter goes, I can't make another bad decision. And mm-hmm. Gus says, well, were your decision for your kids and for your family? And he says, well, yeah. And he says, well, they weren't bad decisions. They were good decisions. And he basically goes down, and I think this is really, really good, because Gus basically breaks down, if you're a man, doesn't matter if you're appreciated, if you're loved, or if you're respected, if you got to provide for your family. And he's like, you have to be a man. You have to provide for your family. And this is the hook. This is what's getting Walter going, because the reason that Walter did this in the first place was for his family. There was no pride. There was no ego. Mm-hmm. It's him cooking because he knew he wasn't going to be around very much longer. And he had to make sure his family was going to be afloat for while he was gone. So that's kind of where Gus pushes the furthest. And I think that's why he was so successful in getting him to cook again.
Right. And it's 3 months for $3 million. And
Yeah,
that's,
gotta believe that out.
yeah, that it's risky, but compared to the RV, this is no risk. Gus tells him, my employees are trained. They know not to say anything. Clearly, one thing about Gus, another thing is any person he hires, he trusts because, or if he doesn't, he'll take care of it. But he's not afraid. Everybody he hires, he has a level of trust with, and he trusts these people at the laundromat to not interfere with Walter or speak of what happens there to anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's you're right. He's got these employees. He keeps them in line. You see it at Los Polos, and he implements the same thing wherever he seems to work, whether it's legal or legal. It's just how he does business.
So Walt says no, but we'll get back to that in a minute. So Skylar still hanging out with Ted. She's kind of seen Walt's money. She goes through it in the closet, kind of looking through it, doesn't want to touch it, but at the same time, it's a lot of money sitting there, just could be hers. And she goes see her lawyer, and she tells her, yeah, I'm sleeping with my boss, but I'm doing it for attention and for other reasons. I'm tired of being seen as a bitch. I'm tired of my husband cooking meth behind my back, and I'm just looking, and yeah, it's basically just a cry for help, sort of.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she's doing it because she can't tell Walter Jr., but she still wants to hurt Walter. I mean, we've talked about this before. This is clearly a way for Skylar to get back at Walter because of the lying and the hurt that she feels. So she's going to reflect that by doing the same thing to Walter in the best way she knows how. And obviously she has feelings for Ted. I'm not saying that it's solely a spite, but clearly she sees that opportunity and she took it. And her lawyer brings up a great point. She says, well, you've seen the money, you know what he's doing. Now you're becoming an accessory to crime. If you continue any longer, don't do anything about it, which I think is a great point.
Right. Yeah. Her lawyer she's not afraid to pipe in her opinion. She says to Skylar, what are you doing here? Like, turn him in, grow a set, basically. And because you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't hate the guy, but then take his money when he's dead, from cancer or whatever happens. And she basically says, you're going to be in jail with him if he gets caught. And then your kids are both going to think you guys were, drug dealers in a sense. And that it didn't really get to Skylar.
No, she still says, I can't tell my son because, he'll see Walter in a different light, and she just won't have that. And it basically at the same time, she says, well, I didn't marry a drug dealer. And the lawyer, great line finishes with, you're married to one now.
That was a great line. Great writing there. I love that line too. Just a smug little shot. But yeah, great line. And after she leaves the divorce lawyer, she finds the divorce papers in Holly's crib. Oddly enough, Walter has signed them.
Yeah, this is shocking because before this you don't really see any indication. They don't have any communication between the two of them. So it's almost like between the two of them nothing has changed, but really it's instead Walter changing in a sense, and he is he's kind of made a decision in his mind about obviously his family, but what else he's going to do to help provide for his family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. The last two big scenes of this episode are both really interesting. We'll start with Jesse. He goes to Saul's to have his little reconvene with Walter. Saul being the middleman, so to speak, like he always is in most of his dealings. And Jesse offers Walt 10% of all his profits that he makes throughout the rest of his life. He'll give him 10% for doing nothing, sitting on his ass. It's like you own a company and you kept shares. You're just sitting there. You're still collecting wealth. However, Jesse wants half of his money for the last batch that he cooked. He wants it. He wants it back. And, Walt says, take it. I don't need that trash. And he said, but then he says to Jesse, that'll be the last dime you ever make in this business.
Yeah, delivers a great line and basically says, just lays up front. He's like, I'm going to start working, I'm going to work for Gus again. He basically just used you to get to me. You were never the one he really wanted. It was me the whole time. And really just kind of rubbed it in Jesse's face. And, he's eating it up. And this is not Walter. This is Heisenberg talking. And
Yeah.
he's cocky. He's arrogant. And, he's basically saying, I'm going to start working for him again. You can use whatever formula you want as long as it's not mine.
Right. You can go back to using your shitty chili pea, whatever crap you want. But I got a $3 million contract and you're not a part of it. So beat it, basically. And Jesse's already pissed. But then Saul jumps in front of Jesse and says, Walt, I know it's a good deal. You still got to launder some money. So 17% is a little high. Let's drop down to my fee, 15%. And Walt says 5. So I said, you know what? 15 is kind of high. 12%, 12, 5, 10, 5. And after saying about 4 different numbers, it's 5%. And Saul has basically kicked Jesse to the curb.
Yeah, so Jesse's pissed. He's like, well, you're my lawyer. What are you doing? And, Saul's like, hey, I got to go with the bigger fish here because just like you, I got to make some money in the same sense. Mm-hmm. And, that's kind of it. Jesse storms off and proceeds to throw a rock through Walter's windshield, which I thought was just kind of a recurring thing through the show now with the broken windshield. But
right.
Yeah, he's obviously the two of them are not on great terms. But in the same sense, it's Walter officially saying, hey, I'm back, and kind of giving a little shade back to the last episode with the green light.
Right. And this is completely Gus winning this battle with Walter. He's the tug of war, and it took Jesse cooking something that he created that he feels he owns that drove him back to the business. So Gus gets what he wants, and Jesse's pissed he's no longer part of the business, and Walter has both feet back in. To end the episode, we go back to Hank. He's somewhat congratulated Gomez. He's given him a handshake, gives him the little figurine of the I think it's Pablo Escobar or something like that. He said, no, it's know your enemy, mm-hmm. which was a good little gesture. But it's kind of an awkward handshake that they have, though. But he's looked through all 28 RVs, and he's beyond desperate. He goes, there ain't no cake, and he's asking this woman, no, please go look it up first. I need, please. And she goes, okay, just want some cake. But she comes back, and one of the RVs was not registered. So one of the crimes was not registered. So she goes, there's one more, Hank. He gets a big smile on his face, and he takes a drive to the home where Jesse and Combo originally stole the RV.
Yeah, he knocks on the window, and this lovely older woman kind of pops out and says, she says, did you at one point have a recreational vehicle? And she says, yes, I did. And she's like, well, he's like, why did you never report it stolen? And she goes, well, I just didn't want to go through the hassle. And eventually they get to it. And this is the mother of Combo. And, Hank's kind of put two to two together. And he says, oh, do you know where I can find him? And she says, well, no, Combo's been passed since now. And, he takes a little peek into Combo's room. There's some flowers and some memorabilia for him. But what picture does he see, Juggy?
It's a picture of Combo and Jesse at the strip club that night. And Hank has a history with Jesse through the whole Tuco incident. And he now has his target set on one Jesse Pinkman.
Yeah, this kind of really puts everything into scope, and it's a break for Hank
Mm-hmm.
because obviously, through doubters, his boss didn't really believe in him. I would say, even though he had the evidence in front of him, his partner's gone, and it doesn't feel like many people in the office really believe Hank. But to him, this is a huge break, and this is a great way to end the episode because it sets up the next episode really, really well into something that we'll talk about next.
Yeah, a great end to the episode. Obviously, Hank gets a break. He's been searching for one for it seems like 2 seasons now, or ever since really Tuco died to find Heisenberg. So that brings us to episode 6, Sunset, this is such a good episode. This is it's been one of my favorites so far that we've watched. I thoroughly enjoyed this. We start very different from our last one. We see a Homeland Security agent gets a call saying that asking to go check on Mrs. Ortega. We can tell this is in Mexico or around the area because it's very deserted. It's again, it might be in El Paso, United States area, but again, that's not really important. And this agent goes to her door, knocks on it, no answer. Waits a few minutes, and he pokes his head through the window. He doesn't really pick up on this, but through our camera lens, we see something that we've seen before, Shay.
Yeah, we see almost like a Grim Reaper figurine, and the first time we saw this was actually at the beginning of the season when the twins were basically crawling up to it and setting it down, and inside we could also see that there's a picture of Heisenberg also stapled in there.
Yeah. So, and then we see like a body flash, a quick little glance where a body makes its way out. So we see the body move, and the agent's outside. He doesn't really know what's going on. He's just he's looking around. He's like, Mrs. Ortega, where are you? And he goes to the outhouse because he hears flies. And behind the outhouse is a very dead Mrs. Ortega.
Yeah, she's covered up. She looks like she's been there for a while. Her skin is pale and gross.
Mm-hmm.
And, right away, he's on the alert. He's got his gun out, and he makes his way back to his vehicle and basically just grabs the shotgun and calls for backup and holds the shotgun at the door because he knows whoever comes out of there is clearly a killer.
Yeah. And so one of the twins actually comes out. He doesn't have a suit. He just has his wife beater on because we see their suit jackets on the clothesline. But he doesn't, again, go figure, doesn't say anything. Just stands there and puts his hands up. And he's telling him, do you speak English? Like, get on your back. And after a while, he turns around and takes a bite out of an apple. And because these guys are so silent, the bigger twin, sneaks up from behind the Homeland Security guard, and let's just say he didn't see tomorrow.
Yeah, he Jason Voorhees is this ass, and he's a goner. But this is how these guys work. They work in stealth. They're quiet, like when they were working through getting into Walter's house. They didn't make a peep. Walter didn't even know they were there, and they were there waiting for him to get out of the shower to kill him. So it just shows that these guys are still lurking. They're on the prowl. They're taking bodies left and right, as you know. And we see later on they're still pretty thirsty for blood.
Yes. Very much so. These guys never get tired of killing people. And that's just another example early in this episode, just what they're capable of. I think that's really what the show was trying to tell us. Like these guys are legit, and they can kill you in any number of ways. It doesn't matter who you are. They've killed now a disabled woman, another older woman. They don't discriminate. They'll kill whoever they deem appropriate. Pivoting to Skylar, she calls Walt while he's kind of getting ready for the day. And she says, well, what are we going to do about the divorce paper, about the divorce? He goes, well, we'll figure it out. We'll tell Walt Jr. And he's actually at this time, he's looking to buy a new apartment, or at least a new apartment. And he tells her that he'll pay her every different aspect of child support. So that's, education, that's food, that's, oftentimes it gets settled where you pay a certain amount. He tells her he'll pay her the max sum of the child support for the two children.
Yeah, but she's not happy about where the money is coming from, because she basically says, listen, it's also worth noting, they're having this conversation. Skylar's kind of looked like she's been crying, kind of looks worn out. And Walter is kind of the exact opposite. He looks sprout, he's dressed nicely. It's really funny how shows do this, but like you can often tell a character's appearance, or how they feel, by their appearance, what they're wearing and how they look. And I think they do a really good job with Walter in these last couple episodes, when he's kind of down in the dumps to when he's back to himself, when he's, dressed to the nines. He's got his classic slacks and button down shirt on, and he looks more like himself and looks more normal than when he's kind of in a slump.
Absolutely. I think, and I know you're a big music person. Music, wardrobe, it can make or break a movie or a show. Like picking the right song to play during a specific moment, or how it's represented, can really change a show or a movie. I can think of really movies that had a lot of promise, and you play a certain song at a specific time, and it can go flat, and that kind of leads you down a darker path for the rest of the film.
Yeah, 100%. And no different to this show at all. And they kind of have the conversation, but she's not happy where the money's coming from. But Walter doesn't have time to talk, because the realtor kind of walks in. And it's funny, he's the beginning of when he gets this call, he's looking at this painting, and this is clearly a show condo, not a like actual condo. And he's like, yeah, no, I like everything just the way it is. I just want to buy this place. And then he kind of ends the conversation by saying, there's nothing that's non-negotiable, which I thought was pretty funny that they threw that in there.
Yeah, I like that too. It kind of reminded me of Ozark, when Wendy's selling property early on with the kind of that loser there, and they kind of do the same thing. She dresses it up, and people are like, "I'll take it like this." So yeah, I like that too, that they threw that in there. Jesse was pissed off, but he's not dwelling on it. He's cooked another batch, and he brings over his two little test dummies, pun intended, to try it out, Skinny P and Badger. And Badger, he starts dancing when he takes a hit. He said, "It's killer. This is the best I've ever had." And Jesse says, "Yeah, it's great that you like it, but let's talk turkey. Let's talk business and how we're going to get ourselves back on our feet."
Yeah, and he rallies them. They're hesitant at first, like, oh, with what happened to Combo, us being not smart, taking territory that wasn't ours. And Jesse kind of he reiterates, he's like, no, that was not me. That was Heisenberg. We're going to be smart about this. We're going to play this really clean and squeaky, and we're going to go back to the way things were. We're just making bank by knowing the territories that we sell. And he flips them. He gets them on his side, and it's kind of back to season 2, when he's running the operation and he's doing all the selling and doing the drop offs again. But someone is watching the home and is onto him.
Yeah, so as Skinny and Badger are leaving, they've set up this plan. But Badger's going to go get the RV fixed. Skinny is going to go buy equipment. And we see Hank in his car, about 400, 500 feet away, and he's all, "Brandon Mayhew, I know you," and from the earlier arrest, and he's clearly, we know Hank. He's not leaving that home without Jesse going somewhere, and he's locked in. He's going to be there for pretty much the remainder of this episode.
Yeah, exactly. He gets a call from Marie. I don't know if it's not, it might be even a little bit later in the show, but he's basically like, yeah, I'm not leaving. And, that kind of leads to Marie suggesting something, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah. She has an idea there, but that, yeah. So we go through this montage of Walt. We mentioned music. I think this is another really, I like these montages because it works for this show. We see Walt getting ready for work. The alarm goes off at 6, makes his PB&J, cuts off the crust, gets his paper bag out, puts his name on it, which I don't know whose lunch it would be, but nevertheless.
Yeah.
And like you said, he's in nice clothing. He seems very confident. And then he drives Walt Jr. to school before he heads to his first day at the new job.
Yeah, right away he says, do you want to talk about it, implying that, at this point they've kind of told him that what's going to go on. Walt Jr.'s obviously upset, like any 16, 17-year-old boy would be if his parents were getting divorced. And he just kind of says, like, I don't understand what's going on, and he's like, you don't have to punish me by driving me to school when it could be Lewis. And Walter has these scenes. It kind of reminds me of back when he's giving the speech for the plane crash in the auditorium in front of the students. He's kind of like, he takes something, totally bad and kind of just makes it positive. And he's like, I have a good feeling about this. I think this is going to be a lot better than you may think it is. And no one in that, situation wants to hear that.
No, especially like 2 days removed.
Yeah,
maybe throw that in like a couple months later if if things are just kind of better now. But 2 days removed, your parents are just recently divorced. You had no idea this was really coming. Obviously, that they've been going through a rough patch, but he's been back home for a number of weeks. Not the time to throw in that line. And again, that's Walter's MO. His emotional intelligence is not that great, and I don't think he knows exactly when to say certain things to people at specific times.
Yeah, it's the way I think his mind works, in the fact that he just can't comprehend when to not grieve. What's the word I'm looking for here, Juggy?
Empathize. Just like empathize,
yeah, with people, and he just can't do that properly. And we've seen it time and time again with
Jesse.
With him consulting Jesse about Jane. He kind of says he could see it in a bright light, as the first time they saw each other since they knew she was passed. But yeah, so he goes, and then it's straight to the lab. It's straight to his new baby that he's been waiting for, essentially. But there's someone else there to greet him when he gets there.
Yeah, he walks in. He kind of gets caught off guard because this voice says, "Hello, Mr. White," right? He's kind of, and he goes downstairs and he meets Gil Bedecker, and he's his new lab assistant. And Gil is the polar opposite from Jesse. Jesse is a former addict. He likes, rap music or whatever you want to call it. He's more of a free spirit, not the educated type. Gil has a master's. He went to the University of Colorado. He's very intelligent. And Walter likes him, I think, especially at first. But as the day goes on, Gil starts to show, really just how smart and how intuitive he is.
Yeah, and this is kind of a shock to Walter's system, who he's usually used to doing most of the work, we'd say, but Gil is kind of right there by his side. If he needs something, well, he doesn't even Walter doesn't even have to ask for it. Gil's already got it for him. He's super on the ball. But yeah, I think in the sense he does like the fact that he has somebody to talk to chemistry about. They kind of, at the end of the day, they pop a bottle of wine and they're just kind of reciting famous chemistry poems, and sharing experiences. Why are you doing this? Well, why are you doing this? Because they're both clearly very, very educated men who have probably no intentions of being drug dealers, but here they are making pure crystal meth.
Right. And he asked Gil what drove you to the meth industry, and he kind of gives this lame answer, but he kind of says, same thing. I could ask you the same thing, kind of thing. So they are kindred spirits. But at the end of their interaction, we see him recount an entire Walt Whitman poem.
Yeah,
and I think that kind of caught Walt off guard a little bit.
Yeah, just kind of how smart this guy is, because he could be very much smarter than Walter is, which I think Walter's probably not used to having someone of that degree around. Just for reference, this guy David Costabile, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Costabile he's a really really good actor. If people probably recognize him from Suits. He kind of
Mhm.
plays the hidden partner in that show. He doesn't come till a couple seasons later, and he also in the show you watch, Billions.
Yeah. Yeah. He's in Billions, and I agree. He's a really good actor, and plays this part very well. So at this point, we see Skinny's leaving. So he's there for a while. I'm just trying to find my notes here where I want to go. So Hank's tracking Jesse, and Marie gives Hank a call, and he says, "You ever gonna come home?" kind of thing, and he goes, "No," basically no. And she goes, "Well, are you tracking that Pinkman kid?" He goes, "Yeah, babe." And she says, "Well, I have an idea. Why don't you call Walt? He was the one that was selling the dope back in the day." And pretty good idea for Marie.
Yeah, I give kudos to Marie. It kind of putting
Yeah.
two and two together, but automatically Hank gives him a call, and I mean the reaction on Walter's face. He's sitting there reading a Walt Whitman book, which I thought was kind of humical, kind of brushing up.
Yeah.
But he calls him, and Walter's kind of like, "What do you mean? Like, I don't." He didn't even know what to say. I think he was just speechless that Hank is that close to him, and he didn't. Walter didn't even know.
Right.
In the sense that if he gets a hold of the RV, like that's it for Walter. Like he's done.
He's completely done. So he basically tells Hank, "I have no clue." Gets off the phone, does call Jesse, but while he's calling him, he realizes, "Oh shit, what if Hank's got the house bugged?"
Listening to him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what if he's listening to him? And he hangs up right away, and he calls Saul, and he says, I need your help here. Like, we gotta get that RV out of there." And so he tells him where it's located, and he drives down there, Badgers with the guy. They're fixing it. Walt says, "We got to get this the hell out of here. We need to destroy it today." And he goes, "Okay, I know the perfect guy. If you pay him in cash, you won't hear a thing about him." He goes, "Okay, great. Yeah, let's go." But Badger is loyal to Jesse. He thinks Heisenberg's kind of double crossing him here, knowing that they've separated. He gives Jesse a call saying, "Hey, Heisenberg's down here getting the RV. All of our equipment's inside of it. Like, you need to get your ass down here now."
Yeah, it's Jesse losing it and not realizing, because no one has really told him, no Solomon, no Walter, but Hank's following him the entire time and kind of just waiting for him to leave. So wherever he goes, Hank goes.
Right. So
I think it's worth noting, we kind of get to the end of this, at Polo's Gustavo's restaurant, the twins keep kind of coming in. They come in, they don't know anything, and they just stare. They just glare and glare at Gustavo the entire time. They make it comfortable for customers and the employees there. So eventually, Gustavo goes over and kind of says, what do you want? And for the first time during the show, they answer back in Spanish. They says, what we want, which I thought was a kind of a huge scene for two people who are silent throughout the entire show. And
absolutely, I agree. Sitting in the booth, and you don't expect them to say anything. You probably just expect them just to nod or something. But the one pipes in and says, "What we want." Clearly, they want Walter's head, and he kind of says, "Meet me here at this in a couple hours. We'll talk about it." And we'll get to that at the end of the episode. But so Jesse takes off in a huff, and Hank goes, "Here we go. I'm following him." So Walt brings the RV to this basically scrapyard. He's going to destroy the RV, and the junkyard owner is in the movie Billy Madison. I know him best for that. He plays Carl. If you recall, he's one of Billy's not close buddies. He does work for Billy's father. He ends up taking over the company, and he's in actually Better Call Saul, and he's also in the El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie as well. So he's had his full shares of Breaking Bad, that's for sure. But he tells him, gives him the money, says, "You'll never see this again. Like, they couldn't ID this. He's the perfect guy for Walt." He goes, "Great, like, let's crush it." So as they're about to, he's checking it out. Walt's just seeing if anything's his that he needs to grab.
He's kind of reminiscing almost a little bit, eh?
A little bit, eh?
Looking at the stuff, he looks at the chairs, and he's kind of like smiling a little bit, kind of thinking about all the memories they've had. But who bursts in but Jesse?
Right. And Jesse storms in. He goes, "What the hell are you doing?" And Walt's basically, what are you doing here? Like, Hank was watching your house. Like, you can't be in. What? And behind the RV, we see Hank's car pull up right behind the RV, basically boxing him in so that he can't leave. And Walter quickly locks the door, and Hank starts to come investigate.
Yeah, it's kind of this scene where both Walter and Jesse, they close the blinds, they have the doors locked, and they're just kind of sitting there listening. And Hank's tugging at windows. He tries to open the door, and he says, do you want to add resisting to arrest to your resume, Pinkman? And Jesse doesn't even say anything, so he's like, "Okay, well, we can do this your way." And he basically goes and grabs the pry bar and tries to get the door open, but someone unexpectedly stops him.
Yeah, so our junkyard owner comes back and he goes, "Excuse me, officer, do you have a warrant for that?" And he goes, "I don't need a warrant. It's a vehicle. Like, I don't need a warrant to search this." And he goes, "Actually, it's on my property. You do need a warrant, and I'll call the cops on you if you really want to do that." And they're kind of going through this, and Walt starts telling Jesse things to say. And he goes, "This is my vehicle. You need to have permission to search it." And he goes, "Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you do." And he says to Hank, "Yeah, it's true. You do need it." And he goes, "It's private property, bitch." And Hank starts pulling at the bullet holes, pulling the tape off, seeing bullet holes, and they pipe in, "Well, you wouldn't have seen that if you didn't tear it off. So again, you need cause." And so Hank goes, "Okay, I'll get a search warrant. I'll go call it right now. Screw you guys." Goes to his car and is going to call the feds. But while waiting, Jesse and Walt just, "Oh, we're dead. Like, we're done here." Especially Jesse, like, we're done. But Walt's sitting there, he's thinking. And Jesse goes, "Do you have an idea?" "Yeah, I got one." And this plan is a pretty heinous one that Walter comes up with. It's really quite disturbing.
It's probably one of the dirtiest, lowest points that you've had to pull out. And mind you, they're both in desperate times. They both need Hank out of there. They need the RV destroyed ASAP. And really, there's probably only one thing in the world that would pull Hank away from this RV.
Right. So they call Saul, and Hank gets a call saying it's from the Albuquerque hospital. Marie has been in a car accident. She's being airlifted to the hospital, going into emergency surgery. And Hank, they said, "Hey, we can't really tell you her condition right now. We just know it's not good." And it's a woman's voice. So it's not like it's Jesse or Walter. So we pin to Saul in his office with this receptionist making the call. Hank pulls out of the junkyard as fast as he can, and Saul breaks the phone in half, and the boys are free to destroy the RV. But this, again, from Walter saying this to his brother-in-law, this was as dirty as it gets.
Yeah, and you can imagine the feeling, Hank running through the hospital, screaming at people, where's Marie? Where's Marie Schrader? Where's Marie Schrader? And he gets a call, and who is it? Marie. And Marie's like, what do you want for supper tonight? Are you gonna eat tonight? And Hank's just sitting there, and he knows he's been punked, and the face he makes. Dean Norris makes, his expressions are sometimes on point, because he goes from worry or happiness to just complete disgust and anger so well.
Yeah, I find he's like Paul Giamatti, Shay. A guy in Billions, in like The Hangover. when he's laughing, can be joking, and then he gets smashed the table and be like, whoa, okay, what just happened here?
Yeah.
Hank Dean Norris is, I agree, exactly like that. So they destroy the RV beyond recognition. They never know it existed. The two of them are basically scot-free, you think. We'll see at the start of next episode. But basically, we just know Hank is, first of all, not in a great mental state to begin with. But then somebody just told him that his wife potentially could be dying. And it's complete chaos for Hank. But we'll get into that next week. But really quite a scene and quite the way to get out of a tough situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously wasn't an easy thing to do, I think, for Walter, and I think he does probably feel a little regret. You can even see it on Saul's face when he breaks the phone. It's kind of like, he's as sleazy as they come, and he even has a face like, okay, that could get us into a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Pretending a DEA agent's wife is, hurt when she's really not. But yeah, I mean, there's this great scene I wanted to mention where, Walter and Jesse kind of just watch the RV get destroyed, and they made so many memories in there, and there's so much of the beginning of the show that goes on in this RV. So I think it's really cool that they give it this, this send off, this well written send off where they're pointing at it, they're both kind of just looking at it, and for two guys that don't like each other, they both kind of embrace a moment of of a closing of time in their lives.
Right. Absolutely. So at the end of the episode, we see Gus drive out to the middle of the desert to meet the twins. And he says, "You will not kill Walter White." And they say, "No, like we need his blood on our hand." They speak again. Like we're killing this guy. We want blood for blood. Like we need it.
That's how angry they are, Dougie.
Yeah,
they actually start talking because they're so fed up.
Right. So, and they say, "Nope, no, you're not going to do it." But why are you going for Walter? Yeah, he betrayed Tuco, but he didn't kill him. The DEA did. And he kind of pipes in, well, Bolsa, the mob boss, said DEA is off limits. And this is Gus really getting sick of the mob. He says, "I don't care what he said. This is my territory. I run things here." And to finish off the episode, he says the DEA, he tells us who the DEA agent is.
Yeah, he basically says, and the final words are, "Will I hope the blood that you shed from him satisfies you,"
Mm-hmm.
and the sense that he's trying to buy himself some time because he knows he's going to need Walter for at least 3 months. If he lives longer, he could use him longer than that. Mm-hmm. So he needs him to be around, and he needs these guys to kind of F off in the sense.
Yeah, so he tells him his name's Hank Schrader. He kind of serves him up on a silver platter. And he's, like you said, he's hoping Walter, to get rid of the target off Walter's back, he pins it directly on Hank's.
Which makes, this next episode, I can't tell you. Anyone who's listening, Juggy, I think you can second it, Juggy. It's probably one of the best episodes of the show. I know we say that a lot. Mm-hmm. It feels like every time we're like, oh, we love this episode, but the next episode, and especially where it's kind of the season midway point, we'll say. I think 7 always becomes the season midway point throughout the series. So good, such a great episode, and yeah, it's exciting to get into.
Yeah, all the twins' actions, Hank's mental state, everything comes to a head in this episode, and it's gold. And we also kind of get to know Mike a little bit better after these next couple episodes. That's a good thing for us too, because I know Mike's become such a compelling character as the show goes on.
Yeah.
But that does it for these 2 episodes. Like I said, 2 really good ones. But yeah, episode 7 next week is, like you said, one of the best, and we'll dive into it because it's super interesting. But I know you still got some work to do at the house. I know you might you got some birthdays in your family coming up. So what's your plans for the rest of the week?
Yeah, so I have the rest of the week to work, and then I hit another little spread of vacation. So a lot of golf, a lot of spending time with family, and of course, here at the house, kind of puts things away, set things up, and settle in. Really, this final week probably just end up cleaning the rest of our apartment and moving out, and closing that chapter of the books for me. But no, it's exciting. And, last week I thought we had a great podcast with our good friends Dawson and Casey over the expansion draft. I want to mention that I think we all did pretty decent in it for what I can tell. I think we all went between seven and 10 picks, which probably not great, but better than most, I would say. And yeah, so that was good. And no, I'm just excited that more hockey news keeps popping up. People getting signed, people getting moved. So it's exciting.
What was the biggest signing / story today in the NHL world for you?
Oh, there was a ton, but I think Fleury being moved to Chi-Town is definitely up there. A little slap in the face after he just won his first Vezina at 36. But I try to think of it as a business, and from a business perspective, maybe it's for the best thing for Vegas to do. They'll be able to sign another maybe a centerman, which they kind of need, and really certify them as contending playoff team, because really they should have been there right with Vegas Vegas. They should have been right there with Tampa Bay last year. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think that one surprised me the most because I just didn't see it coming. I thought they'd have to keep him because nobody would take him. But if I'm Fleury, I show up in Chicago. They could be sneaky good.
They just signed. I know you love them. They just signed Seth Jones. They didn't have to give up a thing for him, which it's embarrassment for Columbus. And I really like Kekalainen, but he's really not looked great this offseason, I found. But I think things will come and things will go. And yeah, you're right. I think Chicago has a good chance of making the playoffs, and who knows? They get some guys who could do some things there.
Yeah, and I'd also say Ovechkin, no surprise he resigns. I didn't think it would be 5 years. But I think the greatest goal scorer in the history of the game, whether he passes Gretzky or not, he can make less money than 3 Leafs. So that's always interesting too.
Yeah, what did his AAV end up coming to?
9.5.
So he made See, if I were him though, I would have made less money and tried to get more players to come there to try and win. But obviously he maybe he feels like he's still got enough in the tank, and he's going to be a $9.5 million player, which I'm sure he could be.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is one of the most durable players in pro sports. He just doesn't miss any games.
Russian gas, baby, Russian gas.
Yeah, I know for him, he'll want to go to the Olympics next year. Hopefully the NHL players can go. See, that's the one thing missing for him is the potential Olympic gold medal. He won't get it, but Canada will. But best of luck. No, great pod today, man. I know you got some cleaning to do tonight, so I'll let you go, and we'll be back next week when you're fresh and hot on the first couple days of your vacation.
Exactly. For you to have a great week, and I hope to keep popping out some more pods this week because I've been loving them.
Awesome. Yeah. Tomorrow I'll be doing a live Free Agent Frenzy show on Facebook, but I'll be converting that into a podcast later in the day. So that'll be available via Facebook or podcast tomorrow. Do that live at 5:00. Break down all the signings, potential trades, and everything that's happened in the hockey world so far. So everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk soon.